Hello, hockey fans from around the world. I am Richard Cote, the producer of the Pro Hockey News podcast. It is the second line edition of the podcast, and you know what that means. Yes, it means I am the walrus, cuckoo, cachoo. It also means I am joined by the publisher of ProHockeyNews.com, Lou Lafredo. Lou, how are you doing?
All right, I was actually kind of hoping for, no, never mind. I better not say that. Welcome back. That's what I'll say.
It's been a minute since I've
You
been on
know
the
where,
second line, and
yeah,
I
you know where I was going.
I leave you guys unsupervised for a week, and then anarchy happens. So I got to come back and bring us back on track here.
Yeah.
Um, it also means we are joined by the PHN intern all the way from Toronto, Nicholas. I am going to butcher your last name. I've been practicing Principe, right?
We'll take it. Close enough.
Close enough. All right. Well, Nicholas, how are things in Toronto?
I feel shorthanded. I'm the only Canadian here.
Yeah, I was outnumbered, Richard.
Outnumbered now. Oh, it went
Ah.
from 3 to 1. Oh,
Yeah, you had the numbers last time, and you know what? Your line mate there. I know we're dividing up the second line here, but your wing pair, he's leaving you out to dry here. Listeners, this episode of the Pro Hockey News podcast is brought to you by My Custom Sports Chair. Head over to mycustomsportchair.com, enter in code PHN15 to save yourself 15% off one of the sweetest chairs you will ever put your rear end in. You like how I changed that up a little bit? I thought it needed a little more pizzazz.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, I don't really have much of a rant this week. I know, odd. I had a couple of weeks off. I had plenty of time to stew and to have something prepared for the show, but no, I don't have a rant this week. So there's my failings so far. But I do hear some bags. I do hear some pipes and some drums. Lou, take us away to the sweet land of bangers and mash.
Yeah, absolutely, because this is the final weekend of the regular season. We only have one playoff position open right now. Currently, it's held by the Dundee Stars, who lost today. They hold a 1 point edge over the Manchester Storm, who won. The eighth slot is the only one that's missing right now. And it will be decided, everything will be decided this weekend. Interestingly, there are three teams at the top of the table who are in the running for the regular season trophy. So there's the Belfast Giants are holding down a one point lead over the Sheffield Steelers, and everybody is even in games at 52. Sheffield comes in at 75 points, and the Nottingham Panthers are a bit further back. They're going to have to sweep. They need help. They need to sweep the weekend and have both the Belfast Giants and Sheffield Steelers lose both of their games over the weekend. So that's a tall order for Nottingham. Probably the best that they can look forward to here, I think, is coming in second, ahead of Sheffield. But Belfast could have put the regular season trophy away last weekend, and they got bombed. It was just an ugly, ugly game that they could not pull anything together at all. That allowed Sheffield to come up within 1 point. So this is going to be, you know what, it means that the final weekend has got an awful lot of excitement before the playoffs start next week. But rounding out who we've got in the playoffs in the fourth slot or are the Cardiff Devils. They're coming in fourth. Coventry Blaze won today. They locked down the fifth position. Guildford Flames lost to the Manchester Storm. And Glasgow Clan took their game over the Dundee Stars today, and they are in the seventh spot. And as I said earlier, the Dundee Stars are pulling down the eighth spot so far. Um, I would venture some form of prognostication on that last spot, but it's so much a toss-up right now. It again, it's going to be a great weekend. I'm really looking forward to it, catching some of the games on live TV online, and we'll see how it goes. Well, we will do something on our site as well as on our social media. We'll try and push something out Monday about EIHL and how the playoffs are shaping up. So, Richard, Nicholas, that's the bangers and mash.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, again, head over to prohockeynews.com. We'll have something up as a recap from the weekend's action. And yeah, you can follow all the latest news there on prohockeynews.com. Bringing it back here to the North American continent, we have some playoff pictures that are starting to emerge in the minor leagues and in the NHL and the PWHL. We'll get to the NHL and the PWHL in just a minute. We'll stay in the minor leagues, starting with the ECHL, as we always do on this podcast, as we look forward to the 2025 Kelly Cup playoffs and the top four teams of each division. Starting with the North Division, we have three teams who have already clinched a playoff spot. The Trois-Rivières Lions, the Wheeling Nailers, and the Norfolk Admirals have all clinched playoff spots with 94, 92, and 80, or sorry, 94, 82, and 80 points respectively. The Reading Royals are in the number four spot right now with 71 points, 1 point ahead of the Worcester Railers. In the South Division, we are all locked up. We have the South Carolina Stingrays leading the division with 101 points, the Florida Everblades with 98 points, the Jacksonville Icemen with 88 points, and the Orlando Solar Bears with 80 points. In the Central Division, we have three teams who have clinched: the Toledo Walleye, the Fort Wayne Comets, and the Iowa Heartlanders with 94, 83, and 77 points respectively. The Indy Fuel in that number four spot currently with 66 points, and the Bloomington Bison right on their heels with 64 points, and the Kalamazoo Wings also quite in the mix there with 63 points. In the Mountain Division, we only have one team who has clinched a playoff spot, and that is the Kansas City Mavericks, to absolutely nobody's surprise, being the first team in that division to clinch. They have also clinched the division because the Tahoe Night Monsters are a full 10 points behind them with 85 points. The Wichita Thunder with 81 points, and the Tulsa Oilers rounding out your top four with 80 points. Those three teams have not clinched a playoff spot yet. The Idaho Steelheads have 77 points, and they are in the number five spot. They have a little bit of, they have a game in hand with everybody else there. So they do have a couple more points they could potentially get to make it into the postseason. Lou, I think it's time, as we love to do on this podcast, to make way too early predictions. We don't even have a complete playoff picture,
No,
but why not? That's never stopped us
right,
before.
right.
Um, who are the favorites in each division or in each conference? Who do you think is going on to go and play and then eventually win the Kelly Cup this year?
All right. So out of the East, the surprise to me remain the Lions. Um, they're streamlining or slipstreaming behind Montreal Canadiens, Laval Rocket. Um, the entire organization is about to push into the playoffs in each of the leagues. The Lions have just been playing really exceptional hockey, particularly coming down the stretch. From in the East, I think the final two are going to be the Lions and the Stingrays, if
Okay.
that's possible.
All right. So
How,
they're
depending on how, yeah, I see that as the pair heading to the conference finals.
okay.
Um, Given how well the Lions have been playing up and down the roster, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say the Lions will represent the East.
Okay.
In the West, the Mavericks, I don't. as you correctly pointed out, they have in fact locked down their division. Um, but while they are the class of the conference, Toledo is in the West, right?
Yes, they are.
Um, I see the final two in the West as the Mavericks and Toledo, and I think Toledo gets past for a final matchup of the Walleye and the Lions.
Okay. Who's between
And
those two,
who's going to win?
who's taking it all?
Uh, I'm going to go with the Walleye. There's a I um the Walleye are getting a bit long in the tooth, as the old folks like me like to say. They're getting a bit older, and their leading scorers, their leading defensemen, best goaltenders are advancing in age. And I think that while there's not a sense of desperation, in the minor leagues, I don't see that as an issue. Um, I think there'll be a push out of Toledo to really make this the year that they capture the Kelly Cup again.
All right. My way too early prediction. I can't go against the Florida Everblades in the East. I mean, I know they are the reigning champion. And if things were to play out in the real world as they play out in my mind right now, we're going to have a rematch of last year's Kelly Cup. It's going to be the Mavericks and the Everblades. Um, I just, I don't think there's anybody in the West who can take down the Mavericks right now. Maybe the Walleye, but as Lou, as you had mentioned, they are getting a little seasoned,
Right?
and
Yeah.
and I mean the Mavericks aren't as dominant as they were last season, but nothing else in the Western Conference is screaming at me that you know they're ready to take on the Mavericks. They're going to take down the Mavericks. To me, the Mavericks are going to be my Western Conference champion. They're going to the Cup. The Everblades, I can just never count them out. They're always there. It seems like year after year, they're either in the conference final or they're in the Kelly Cup final. And I don't know, like the Stingrays are also in that group as well. But something about the Everblades, like they have that momentum still going even from last year. So I'm taking Florida to repeat. It's going to be very boring. We're going to have the same Kelly Cup as last year. But that's what my heart's telling me right now for my way too early prediction.
Okay.
So there we go. I mean, Nicholas, do you want to weigh in? I mean, I know how much you cover the ECHL, so
Oh, so very much do I cover it. Um, just to keep it short and sweet, I think the Everblades. I just don't trust the Stingrays. Um, and I think the Walleye.
all right. So we we have some overlapping ideas here, but yeah, I feel comfortable with all of those. All right, let's move on over to the AHL or the American Hockey League, as the kids are calling it these days, and let's take a look at the playoff picture um, as we record this on Friday, April 4th. Um, and can we AHL can we get your website in order? I have been talking about this for years, and I know your playoff format is extremely confusing, but your website is even more confusing. Let's redo it one of these years. Anyways, I should have used that as my rant, but I digress. All right, so let's take a look at the playoff picture in the AHL. In the Atlantic, we have six teams who are going to make it in. Four have clinched: the Hershey Bears, the Charlotte Checkers, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and the Providence Bruins with 85, 82, 82, and 79 points, respectively. The final two in a playoff position, we have the Lehigh Valley Phantoms with 73 points and the Springfield Thunderbirds with 72 points. On the outside looking in are the Hartford Wolfpack with 62 points, a full 10 points back of Springfield. In the North Division, we have five teams who will be making it in to the postseason. We have two who have clinched, the Laval Rockets and the Rochester Americans with 92 and 87 points respectively. The Toronto Marlies have 76 points. The Syracuse Crunch have 74 points. And the Cleveland Monsters, who I believe are going to be spending this weekend as the Cleveland Pierogies, have 73 points.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need that jersey. I, I don't know what it looks like, but
It doesn't look like a pierogi though. Like it doesn't look like one.
Lou, we talked about this last week on the first line.
Okay.
It's interesting. You need to
Okay.
Google it.
I will.
Um, Anyway, we have the Belleville Senators and the Utica Comets on the outside looking in with 69 and 61 points, respectively. In the Central Division, we have the top five who will make it into the playoffs. Right now, we have four teams who have clinched: the Texas Stars, Milwaukee Admirals, Chicago Wolves, and the Grand Rapids Griffins, all making it in with 83, 79, 70, and 70 points, respectively. The Rockford Ice Hogs have the number five spot currently with 64 points, and the Iowa Wild trailing the Rockford Ice Hogs by 10 points with 54. In the Pacific Division, we have the top seven teams getting into the playoffs, with three of them who have already clinched: the Colorado Eagles, the Ontario Reign, and the Abbotsford Canucks, with 86, 82, and 81 points, respectively. The Coachella Valley Firebirds with 77 points, the Calgary Wranglers with 73 points, the San Jose Barracuda with 73 points, and the Tucson Roadrunners with 67 points. On the outside looking in, we have the Bakersfield Condors with 66 points, hoping to overtake Tucson. So, Nicholas, I don't know how much you look at the bracket for the AHL or if you've seen it in the past. It's a very straightforward format here. It just, six teams from one division, five teams from the other two, and then seven from the last division. Your standard bracket for making the playoffs.
Huh?
Like I
Yeah.
said, all very basic stuff. Yeah, don't worry about it. All right, Lou, let's
Yes.
let's make our way too
Yeah.
early predictions for the AHL. Um, Starting with the East, who do you see coming out of the East to compete for the Calder Cup?
My final is my final for the conference final is going to be between Hershey and Rochester. Rochester has Devin Levi in goal, and he has been playing really well for the Mercs. And so between those two, I think Hershey sort of hits a roadblock here, and the Americans move on to represent the East in the final. The West is I just spit that out real quick. It just seems natural at this point to have those teams. Um, the the Central Division is I think the Texas Stars are probably the class of the West.
Mm-hmm.
They have handled most teams very well this season. They've had a variety of winning streaks over the course of the season. They just had a 5-game streak end, but they came right back and started up all over again. Um, I don't see anyone else in their division really chasing them down. The Griffins and the Admirals are certainly going to be there competing, but I just see the Texas Stars. Um, Boy, I don't know about that Pacific Division. Your team, the Colorado Eagles, I, I don't know that I have a lot of faith in them to get through to the conference final. I'm not sure who's going to be there to face off against the Texas Stars, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think in the end it's going to be Texas versus Rochester, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, real big, real small limb, and say the Rochester takes the Calder Cup.
All right.
It's
Uh,
way, 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 way too early.
way too early. I mean, things are shifting around here.
Yeah,
I,
but
I'm
those positions are set.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna actually in the Eastern Conference, I am gonna go with the team to make the conference final who hasn't clinched a playoff spot yet. I'm gonna have the Toronto Marlies in there against the Charlotte Checkers. I I don't know what it is about Hershey right now.
Right.
I know they're playing well, but something about like really hot teams going into the playoffs, I feel like they tend to cool off. I don't know if they're going to have as epic of a collapse as maybe, they make it to the semifinal round or
Right.
what, but something tells me it's going to be Toronto versus Charlotte. Charlotte's going on into the Calder Cup.
Oh.
Out of the West, I I have a good feeling about the Colorado Eagles after the signing of one Tyler McCarr. If that name sounds familiar, he is the brother of Cale McCarr, who
Ah.
signed a one-year deal with the Avs. He is playing with the Colorado Eagles for the remainder of the season. Um, so having him as a forward, if he scores anything like his brother, um, I have a good feeling about that, and I'm going to have them going on over the Texas Stars into the Calder Cup, and I'll be the homer. I'll take the Colorado Eagles to win the Calder Cup this year.
Okay.
Jacob, would you like to make a very
Uh,
well educated, because of this simple format, a very well educated guess, not guess, hypothesis as to who will win?
Sorry, I'm just looking for Jacob real quick.
yeah.
Sorry.
All you Canadians look alike.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
This is getting on the level of Adam here.
Man, I just went into autopilot, but Lou just, yeah, there we go. Sorry, Nicholas. Would you like to
Um,
make a
I was going to
prediction?
say something, but I couldn't help it. Anyway, go ahead.
it's okay. Adam said a lot
I
worse.
know.
Um,
Adam is. Don't listen to him.
This is my shocked face.
I didn't want to be the homer, and I'm still not gonna be.
Right?
I can't put Laval over. Sorry, I can't put Toronto over Laval. I physically can't do that.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I do think the checkers come out, but I do think Laval goes
Wow.
into the finals. Um, I've got the Stars against the Ontario Reign, and I think Ontario goes through.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
no
have
reasons
Ontario versus
whatsoever.
Charlotte.
Yeah,
Who's taking the cup?
Ontario.
All right,
Huh.
Hmm. Okay.
interesting.
Hey,
All
Uh,
right.
if it comes off, I
it's
might as well place a bet on it. Might as well.
um.
Again, these are our way too early season or postseason predictions because
Right.
half the teams haven't clinched a playoff spot yet. But you could let's put money on this. You take it to the bank. This is what's going to happen. Just you got to side with one of us here because we're all over the map. All right, let's take a look at what is happening in the PWHL. This is I'll be filling in for Jacob for his PWHL corner this week. Brought to you by LDE Affinity Jewelry. Um, we have one team who has clinched a playoff spot in the P-Dub. The Montreal Victory have clinched with 48 points, but we have Toronto and Boston climbing up the standings and making things a little interesting. You know, early season favorite Minnesota Frost have dropped quite a few games. They now have 38 points on the season, sitting in fifth place. Uh, you know, kind of in a tough spot here. But as we start going towards the postseason, um, I think we need to make some predictions here as far as who's going to finish up, what our top four are going to be making it into the playoffs. And Nicholas, I'm not going to call you Jacob this time. Nicholas, who are going to be your top four? We know number one is Montreal. Who are the next three?
I don't think the standings are changing.
Really?
Honestly, I don't see it happening. I think the rest is going to do Toronto well. I'm trying to pull up the standings and I just can't seem to get it. I think the rest is going to do Toronto well. I think they come when it actually restarts again. I think they beat Boston, and I just think it's in 3 games. I think there's too much of a hill to climb. And Ottawa, you know what? Maybe Ottawa goes over Boston, just for my hatred towards Boston to continue.
Oh, okay. So
Ooh.
you don't think Minnesota's going to jump up into that top four? You think they're going to be on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I don't think they got it. I could be wrong though. These are what predictions are, right? But I just don't think they got it. You know what? Just for to continue my hatred to Boston, I think Boston falls out.
Oh, all
Ooh.
right. Wow. Shots fired. Dang. What did Boston ever do to you? All right.
Eliminated us every single year in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, we can't help it if we're just fulfilling destiny, but all right, Lou, who are your top after Montreal, who are your next three?
I am going to stick with Nicholas on this one because Minnesota has not, even if Minnesota were to win out, I my issue is that I also think the Charge are going to win out. And it may wind up a 1 or 2 point cushion, but that's it. So hmm, if you're looking for the order, I think Boston drops to fourth, Ottawa gets into the third spot.
Ow. I
It's not that
actually
much, you know?
I I honestly like Minnesota's chances to get back in this because remember, back on the 30th, they beat Toronto 5-2.
Right?
They have a game against the New York Sirens, the last place New York Sirens, coming up on the 26th. And then they have a game against the Charge and then the Fleet. So two playoff teams out of their last 3 games. Ottawa, on the other hand, their next game is on the 26th as well. They're playing Montreal, who obviously is the toughest team in the league right now. And then they have to play Minnesota. So, you got some head to head there. And then they finish off with Toronto. I I like the chances for Minnesota to get back in this after, action resumes on the 26th. So I think Minnesota slips into that fourth spot. I see Ottawa falling out. My top
Okay.
is going to be Montreal, Toronto, Boston, Minnesota. And I think the playoffs are going to be darn good this season. I am excited for that. All right. So there we go. There are our way too early predictions for the minor leagues and for the PWHL. Um, all right. We got some NHL news that we should probably cut to the chase. Just like if you would like to cut any hair that may be bugging you, head over to our friends over at Manscaped. Head over to Manscaped or prohockeynews.com slash let's try that again. Head over to manscaped.com/prohockeynews and save yourself 20% off your cutting instrument of choice. All right, now that I fully fumbled that, let's talk about some Edmonton Oilers. Well, Jacob is not with us here on the podcast. Um, we had concerning moment in the Oilers' last game against the Sharks. Leon Draisaitl left the game. Still undisclosed exactly what the injury is, but he had to leave with I believe, another lower body injury. This is shortly after he came back, missing 6 games, was it? He missed a few games with another lower
Yes.
body injury. He was back in action. He's back out. Um, this has got to cause some concern for Oilers fans heading towards the playoffs, as now the Oilers are in the third spot in the Pacific Division, uh, chasing the LA Kings for that second spot. Home ice advantage is going to be huge for these two teams. Lou, what should Oilers fans should they be terribly concerned right now with Draisaitl out, or do you think the rest will be doing him some good?
I'd be concerned. Um, out for half a dozen games or so with a lower body injury. We don't know what this injury happens to be. Is it a re-injury? In which case you've got a weakened limb or something, right? The 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 prediction is that he'll be back for the playoffs.
Hmm.
Yeah, he'd be rested, but I'd be a little concerned about his strength and whatever the injury is, and will he be able to overcome it? Um, he and McDavid have been down. McDavid is back though, right?
Hmm.
He has been icing. I don't think the Oilers have been playing, well, not think, we know the Oilers have not been playing particularly well, and not having a 100% healthy McDavid and Draisaitl, I don't see a lot of success for the Oilers in the postseason.
Uh, Nicholas is somebody who's a little bit closer to the area since we don't have our Edmonton resident on the podcast. What is the feeling up there about Draisaitl and about his injury?
Um, Honestly, I'm not too sure. Like even Knobloch said after the game that it was like he kept it undisclosed. There's no rumors as to what it could be.
Hmm.
I'm worried for Draisaitl going into the playoffs, genuinely, because to come back in a playoffs, which we know are a more physical environment, with an injury that is undisclosed, so it could be something like re-aggravating the same injury. But in the playoffs, you got to expect the hard hitting, right? So
Hmm.
I would be worried, genuinely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of just a way that, maybe this isn't as big of a deal. Maybe, maybe they're saying that because maybe he came back a little too soon and he needs a little bit more rest. That's why they're keeping it undisclosed. But for him to leave a game, it's like, well, something happened. Something significant happened to Draisaitl there. So I'm trying to keep an optimistic beat on this because I love watching McDavid and Draisaitl, connect every chance they get. They put on an absolute show, and for anybody who does not have a horse in the race when that team is playing, that is the best combination you could possibly watch in the league. Um, so yeah, we'll keep an eye on what happens with Draisaitl and as we head towards the playoffs, and if this is going to be impacting Edmonton's chances of taking over that second spot and getting home ice in the first round versus the Kings. Um, because I mean, I think if you are Edmonton, you're most likely going to be playing the Kings in the first round. You're going to want that home ice. LA 15, 19, and 5 on the road. You're going to want every single advantage you can get and not have to face a team who's extremely good at home. So, all right. Keep an eye on that. Other injury updates. Well, we have a Panther skating. Um, we have Matthew Tkachuk, who has come back onto the ice uh, as we head towards the end of the season. Sounds like he is still not coming back before the end of the regular season, but he should, hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed, be ready for the Panthers as they hit the postseason. He was out on the ice. He wasn't doing any conditioning, but he was, getting to get his feet under him. He hasn't been playing since the Four Nations face-off, so this is a big body that Florida has been missing. Lou, as as we look at the standings, Florida is now in the third spot in the Atlantic. They'll probably be there. Tampa's playing extremely well. Florida's kind of treading water. What kind of an impact would we expect to see with Matthew Tkachuk, even though he has been off for this long? What kind of impact would that be for the Panthers in the playoffs?
Well, the emotional lift, right, of
Hmm.
having Kachuk back in the lineup. Um, it's that it's that nastiness, right?
Oh yeah.
That edge that the Panthers are currently missing. That's a huge body not to have in the lineup, as you pointed out. There's no one else to carry that club
Right.
or mace, the not the chemical, but at the end of the chain. That's what Kachuk is, and uh, I I guess I see it as people are far less afraid of the Panthers at the moment. And if he is back at anything less than 100%, I think the Panthers have a hard time repeating.
Yeah. Um, Nicholas, what comes to your mind, and what kind of feelings do you get thinking about Matthew Tkachuk and Brad Marchand playing on the ice at the same time for the Florida Panthers in the playoffs?
Well, Toronto actually clinched a playoff spot against Florida, which we will get into.
We haven't gotten to that yet, but yes.
Sorry. You could just see in that game that the fact that Toronto held their own physically against Florida says something to the testament of not having Kachuk, also not having Barkov, and also not having Ekblad. So I don't remember exactly if Ekblad is coming back in the first round or the second round, but once one of them comes back, I think you'll see a much different Panthers team. Like you said before, they just look depleted right now.
Yeah. No, I think even if it's just the emotional boost of getting one of your biggest players, biggest impacts on the ice, back on the ice, even if he's not playing at 100%, that's going to boost the rest of the club. They're going to be playing well above their weight. And I think that is going to be worrisome news to, whoever they play in the first round, which it's most likely going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. But, it could be the Leafs. I'm not giving them the division yet. They're only 3 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning at this point. So it's still anybody's division. Um, all right. So we have an Oiler out, a Panther trying to come back. Um, more more news as we start pushing towards the playoffs here. Um, I I did not have this on my bingo card as we started the season. The St. Louis Blues winning 11 straight to comfortably be in a playoff spot. Um, I mean, I was hoping so when they hired um, their new head coach. Sorry, Jim Montgomery. I was blanking on his name for a minute. I was really hoping so because I think he is just a fantastic coach who will get the most out of his players. And I was sad to see him leave Boston after the start they had this year. Um, but I don't know. Like I'm still having a hard time gauging this team moving towards the playoffs. Lou, do you think the Blues at this point are going to be making a little bit of noise, maybe getting out of the first round of the playoffs?
Excuse me. I see them getting out of the first round.
Okay.
They can ride. How many more games can they win? The year that um, they came from, way back. They came from the previous century in order
Right.
to, and so they they have the feeling that they are capable of beating anyone, and so that may carry them through the first round, depending. You know what? It doesn't matter who they're going to face. I think they get past the first round.
So right now they'd be facing the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, and I can see them getting past the Golden Knights.
And if they drop to the second wild card, they're facing the Winnipeg Jets. You see them beating the Winnipeg Jets?
I've never been convinced about the Jets. I
I mean,
like
yeah,
them. Yeah,
it's
and
postseason
so
Hellebuck. So,
right. And so that's why that I think they can get past the Jets as well.
all right. Nicholas, are you getting 2019 vibes from the St. Louis Blues this year?
Yes, absolutely. But I I agree with Lou. I do think they come out of the first round if they face Winnipeg.
You
I
don't see
don't
them beating
see
the Knights?
I don't see them beating Vegas. For what reason? I'm not too sure. I'm just not convinced. For some reason, I'm convinced they beat Winnipeg because I don't trust playoff Hellebuck. I don't think Winnipeg trusts playoff Hellebuck. But yeah, I just see it going that way. Don't get me wrong, 10-0 is insane, but I don't see them winning the cup.
Yeah. Uh, Listeners, if you have a bone to pick with Nicholas and his
My phone
yeah.
number is B.
I'll give you his direct email address if you'd like to lodge your complaint. No, I mean I think it's a valid concern with Hellebuck and the history he's had in the postseason, but I can't remember a regular season he's had like this. He is playing out of his mind. He's good in the regular season. He's being great this right now. He he reminds me of Jordan Binnington from 2019 this season.
Hmm.
Not that he had to come out of nowhere to do it, but he's playing to what to me feels like that kind of caliber who's going to carry his team through the playoffs. So whatever he's doing this season seems to be working, and it worries me a lot, especially as a Colorado Avalanche fan, because if we get out of the first round, we'll most likely have to face him. All right. So I think it's time to talk something near and dear to Nicholas's heart here. Um, Toronto, top of the Atlantic right now.
We've clinched a playoff spot. We've done it.
So remember, after the first round, there's a second round. Okay,
You're
you got to win
joking.
that too. You got to win that too.
Oh no. I've already said this before though. I'm scared about facing Ottawa. Like I think I said this like, every week that we've been on this podcast. I'm scared about facing Ottawa because we're 0-3 against them this year. And
That's
we're
right, you
like
are.
1-7 against them in the last 3 years. I don't know what happens when the Battle of Ontario happens, but we shut down.
It's I don't know what it is. There's always a team that has your number, and it doesn't matter how good they are in the regular season. When you face them, it's throw all the stats out the window. You don't know what's going to happen, and this is one of those matchups where I mean there's more than just a top team playing a wild card team. There's a lot more pride in it, and the emotions come out, um, and I'm just looking at Ottawa's line here and realizing they have a 0 goal differential on the season. You guys really should be beating them. You're plus 24. Um,
I think if we face Ottawa in the first round and lose, I think this is more disgraceful than any loss to Boston, Washington, Columbus, Montreal, any loss that we've had in the first round.
so would you take Boston off your list if Ottawa beats you this year?
I already have a disdain for Ottawa. That's
Okay.
that, yeah. But Boston is always going to be up there, man.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
just so happy that they're bottom of the division.
But they are not eliminated from the playoffs yet.
Oh, come on. There's no way Buffalo's making the playoffs.
No, Boston's not eliminated either.
Yeah, but we talked about Buffalo last week
Oh
about
yeah, no,
making the
but
playoffs. There's no way.
Buffalo's won 7 of their last 10. They have won 2 in a row. They are on a roll, baby. They are not making the playoffs. All right. I something I would kind of like to talk about here as we start heading towards our picks. Something I had tossed out to Lou in our group chat. We have, as I had mentioned, 0 teams in the Eastern Conference who have been eliminated from playoff contention. We have 5 teams in the Western Conference who have been eliminated from playoff contention. They are your usual suspects, the Anaheim Ducks, the Nashville Predators, your Chicago Blackhawks, your San Jose's Sharks, and the Seattle Kraken. this is kind of the time of year where I start looking at these teams who have been eliminated from the playoffs and who really have nothing left to play for the rest of the season except for draft picks. But I start thinking, which team is in a better position to rebuild and which team's future looks brighter sooner? I know last year the San Jose Sharks picked up Celebrini, and he's had a good season for them. The rest of the team around him has been garbage, but he has been the one bright spot on that team. Chicago, Bedard has been there. Um, and Anaheim seems to have some pieces to keep them in competition. Lou, I want to bring you in on this. Out of the five teams who have been eliminated, which of these clubs do you see having a quicker turnaround to being a potential playoff team?
Okay, first answer is Anaheim.
Okay.
I just they have been playing well, and compared to the last few seasons, the Ducks have been competitive. They've gotten nasty with the addition of Jacob Trouba. Um, I, they have assets, I think, that they will wind up giving up ahead of free agency and look to trade. I see them as being able to turn it around. The next one so they're my 1A, my 1B, um, I think is Seattle because the others are just a mess,
Okay.
just an absolute mess. And I don't see Nashville recovering quickly. I don't see the Sharks doing anything, and Chicago is just a bad team. It, I mean, yeah,
I mean, I going into the season, I was worried about Nashville because they had made
right,
so many big moves. They brought
right.
in so many big names and nothing has panned out, which to me screams more coaching issue and getting the team to work to their full potential. I think if they could get that figured out, Nashville has a pretty tough team to beat. But I don't see them doing that, so I'm I'm gonna scrap them from my thought here. Um, I don't know if I'm sold on Seattle's turnaround. I guess I don't have enough historical data to go on with Seattle and how they operate. They could figure it out quickly and become a player in their division. Um, but Lou, I think you're right. I think the Anaheim Ducks, to me, have the best path to becoming a competitive team.
Yeah.
Nicholas, out of these five, who is your quick turnaround here?
Quick turnaround, I would agree being the Ducks, purely because they have what every team needs, a goaltender. They've got John
Yes.
Gibson, right? So and they also have Dostal. He's really good too. So I think the Ducks are the quickest turnaround. But honestly, I see San Jose being a better team in the next 5 years than I see any of these teams being.
Okay. Fair. Bold, but fair. Um,
I- if Spencer Knight does what he could do, Chicago could have, a good couple years in them, but I just don't trust it.
okay. I had higher hopes for Chicago than how they finished this season. Um, so they're slowly losing my trust into their ability to rebuild. But yeah, I think we're all agreed. Anaheim postseason next year, right? Right? Yeah.
Well, they're,
No,
they're
not.
not too far out right now, right? They're 6 points behind Utah, who isn't in a playoff spot, but still hasn't missed the playoffs. The West is very tight. Like it's
It
it's
is
extremely tight.
right. I mean, it's not Eastern Conference wildcard tight, but it's tight. All right, Nicholas, I think it's time to make some predictions about this Saturday. Would you like
We
to kick
could
us off with some predictions of the week?
we could definitely do that. Now, I am gonna have to say that there is no PWHL games, so we are gonna do six of the NHL games. So
Okay.
the first one is New York Rangers at the New Jersey Devils. We'll start with you, Lou.
Okay, I'll give you the same treatment everybody I've given everybody else.
Don't
Just
worry, I
pin,
already
pin
inputted
it.
it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Richard?
It's at New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to take the Rangers. New Jersey's not
It's
great at
almost
home.
no, it's almost a home game for the Rangers anyway.
Exactly. And,
Yeah, it's just across the river.
the Devils aren't doing terribly great in their last 10 either.
Yeah, I think we're gonna clean sweep this with a Rangers 3-0. I think Jacob would probably put the Rangers too, so I'll just put the Rangers for him.
All right.
Um, a playoff matchup that could happen. Florida versus Ottawa in Ottawa. Richard.
Florida at Ottawa. I hmm. This is giving me more pause than I thought it would. I'm going to take Ottawa in this one.
Okay. Lou?
Same thing. I yeah. Give me Ottawa on this one.
Guys, I don't know if we can do this. We're gonna have the same picks through the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll shift something up.
You know what? Just for fun, I will take Florida.
Okay.
All right. Now we go to the battle of second place for, excuse me, the Pacific. Edmonton at LA. Lou.
Oh, give me the Kings, my mistress.
I'm not going to repeat what Jacob said 2 weeks ago.
That's fine. You can. That's fine. That's why I say it.
Richard,
Oh, give me the Oilers in this one.
I am going to take the Kings. I think Draisaitl is McDavid playing?
I thought he was.
If McDavid's playing, it doesn't change my decision. I'm just curious. But I still think the Kings are gonna take that one. Now, Richard, we got one close to you. Colorado at the 11-0 in the last 11 games, St. Louis Blues. Do you
I,
break the
I, I'm
streak?
I'm nervous because Colorado lost 2 games before squeaking out a shootout win in Chicago. But all three of those, well, two of those were road games. There was that one home game against the Blues that they lost. It's not going to happen again. I'm going to take Colorado.
Lou?
Give me the Blues.
I'm also gonna take the Blues. I think they're gonna go 12-0. Now we've got a couple decisions for the next few games. Just purely for me, I think we're gonna do Blue Jackets at Maple Leafs.
You just want us all to pick the Maple Leafs? This is what you want,
I mean, it doesn't really affect our scores after if we all pick the Maple Leafs, but
right?
sure.
Yeah, I'm taking the Maple Leafs.
All right,
And that's
Oh, I'm taking
and
the Blue
that's
Jackets. I'm going to take the Blue Jackets.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. I got
okay.
the Leafs.
I'm very tempted to take the Blue Jackets as well, but I
No,
can't.
Toronto,
I can't. I
Toronto's got
can't.
too
I
much
can't.
to play for, and Columbus has been garbage.
Yeah, but we've seen Toronto when they have too much to play for.
It's not playoffs too much to play for. It's end of the season too much to play for.
Yeah.
That's fair. Um, I think for our last game, we will do one that could have a change in the standings. The Golden Knights at the Flames.
Hmm.
Let's go with you, Lou.
Um, every once in a while, every few seasons or so, I tend to like the Calgary Flames, and this is one of those seasons. So, give me Calgary.
Richard?
You know, looking at Vegas on the road, 18-13-5. Calgary at home, 20-12-5. Give me Calgary in this one.
All right. And we are gonna clean sweep with a Flames for myself as well. HN picks. Hello?
You want to start with your sign off again? I think we just had you freeze up for a second.
Oh, my internet sucks.
Yep.
If you want to go check out our picks, follow us on Blue Sky at PHN Picks, I believe.
Podcast.
PHN Podcast. Sorry.
And use the
Yep.
hashtag PHN picks.
Use the hashtag PHN Picks. There we go. Sorry,
It's
I'm
all
new
right.
at
You're
this
still
one.
in training. You're not Jacob. You're still in training. Jacob, I would give him a hard time because he's heard it plenty of times.
He wrote it.
You did.
You know. Sorry.
All right.
All right.
Parting thoughts. Let's start with the intern, Nicholas.
Ooh. I don't have parting thoughts. I have fun facts now.
Oh,
All right.
Dave Ritchie was the first player to score in the NHL and was also the first player to take a penalty in the
that's a
same
fun
game.
fact.
Yeah, 1917 for the Montreal Wanderers.
Did he get before it was a thing, did he get a Gordie Howe hat trick?
That I didn't research into.
No, okay.
Okay.
I don't think so, though.
Lou.
What are my parting thoughts? As we come to the close of this season, I, I, this is probably one of the most disappointing NHL seasons for me. For one obvious reason, and the other reason is not quite sure I like NHL hockey right now.
Hmm.
That's that's a parting thought, and a lot of that is influenced by how much I've been watching UK hockey and paying attention to the minor leagues this year. There is a freedom in following teams you could care less about. And
Yeah.
I don't mean that, that's not a negative thing. It's just, I, do I care about the Hershey Bears? No. I have one team that in the UK that I'm interested in because of heritage on my mother's side, but that's about it. There's a freedom in watching games when you really don't care and you don't have um, an emotional connection to anything. You can enjoy the sport, you can enjoy the game, and I'm looking forward to the postseason up and down the line, including the NHL, despite my earlier comment.
All right. My parting thought. As we record today on April 4th, 2025, it is currently attempting to snow here in Denver. Also happening today, the Colorado Rockies have their first home game of the MLB season, where it's currently trying to snow. There, in the last few seasons, the Major League Baseball has decided to have the Rockies start their season on the road because chances are in the beginning of April, it's going to snow here in Denver. I lead that up to there is still some excitement for the Colorado Rockies to start their season, even though the Rockies have not had a winning record in 734 consecutive days. It has been over 2 full calendar years since the Colorado Rockies were better than 500. And that was when they were 2-1 to start off the 2023 season. They have not sniffed a winning record since, although this season they broke their sub 500 record or their sub 500 streak. They went 1-1 to start this season. So thank you for that, Colorado. I was enjoying tracking your sub 500. Now I'm just going to have to track your losing record because 500 is not a winning record, but I guess it's technically not losing. So we'll say not winning record. We'll go with that.
Okay.
That is my parting thought. All right. Thank you to Lou Lafredo and Nicholas Principe for joining me here on the podcast for the Second Line. Thank you, listeners, for listening to this episode of the Second Line edition of the Pro Hockey News podcast. And thank you to all of our sponsors, My Custom Sports Chair, Manscaped, LDE Affinity Jewelry, FoCo, and starting out this week, Superfeet. Check out superfeet.com if you need some insoles for your hockey skates, because I think I could probably use some. I should go get the hookup with them. I'll check them out here after we're done with recording this. But thank you to our sponsors for making this episode possible. Thank you, listeners, for making us a part of your routine. Everybody else, I will see you next week on The First Line.